Welcome back everyone, Blade here, and today I have for you guys another video of Duet Night Abyss. Inside today's video guys, we're going to be going over everything you need to know for the game's launch, seeing that later on today at 10 p.m. EST, we'll be able to play the game. Now this is the full game release. We're not going to be doing any of that, oh it's pre-downloadable type stuff. No, this is able to be played at 10 p.m. EST. So be sure to be ready for it. I'll have this link down below so you guys are able to check what time that is for you guys. We have literally 12 hours and 32 minutes. So you could just do the time calculation right now. But as always, I'll try to keep you guys as informed as much as possible here. So you're going to see a lot of content coming from me very, very soon. But I'm going to have timestamps down below. You're able to skip around if you do want to, if there's specific things you want to see. But we're literally going over everything here when it does come down to what you need to know. The first thing that I want to go over is how the characters, the weaponry is all obtained here. I'm gonna have this actually on our screen. So on release, we already know there's going to be a ton of characters. I think it's like 19 characters and around 43 weapons that will all be available on the release day. Some of these characters will be able to get through stories. Some of them we can just go ahead and craft up by going ahead and grinding. And same goes with the weapons and the GENIEMONS here. All of this stuff we're able to at least get up craftable and or find them to help us out on our journey. So we're going to be taking a lot of time to doing this, and there will be a lot of things that you need to focus on if you really want to get up your characters in general. But there are certain ways that you can really build your characters here, which I do have another image being this way to obtain certain characters and weapons here. So how it really does go is for obtaining characters and weapons, you're usually going to have to do some type of daily quest or daily commission. And then of course there's other 3 modes that you can do as well, such as Nocturnal Echoes, Mystic Maze, and Immersive Theater. All 3 of these are going to help you out with getting these said items called secret letter clues, which these secret letter clues, after you get 10 of them, you can then exchange them out for 1 character secret letter. And the same can be said for like your demon wedges or even your weaponry secret letters as well. Once of course you do that said dungeon, you will end up being able to collect a certain amount of shards just from the drops, and then after you get 30 of those said drops, you're then able to get your character, weapon, or demon wedge, which is always great to see. Or you can go ahead and bypass all of this through just going ahead and buying the character itself by just outright buying the character shards and obtaining your character a little bit earlier rather than grinding it. Nothing wrong with it. It's always something you can do and always an option. Now with this in mind, this already just explains some of the characters in their weaponry, but there's also a few other things that we need to know, such as the game modes themselves. We've talked about them briefly, but we haven't really went into depth with them. And so right here, when it comes down to our second one, we're going to be looking at the commissions. Now commissions is one of the few things that we're always going to be doing, whether it's daily or weekly commissions here. And they're kind of like little stages that we'll always do. This is not like your daily type deals that you're getting in like Genshin, where we're really just going to a quest marker. No, this is something that are literal dungeons that we have to go through, eliminate different enemies as well as targets, or either just do certain objectives in order to fully complete this. By completing this said commission, you're able to get different little items from it. But the good part about this is you can increase the amount of items that you can get just by getting something called a commission manual, which we're briefly able to see in this image down below. These commission manuals are able to increase the amount of completed rewards that you do have, and it's going to increase the multiplier. So you do want to of course use them wisely. It's going to be very helpful for a lot of you guys. If you guys don't at least have a good thought process of how the commissions are going to kind of look, you're usually going to spawn into a dungeon like this here, and you'll end up going to just do some farming or either killing off some of the enemies here. And there's going to be a certain type of like mission that you need to do. Sometimes it might be protecting a pillar of a sort. That's going to be like something you need to do, destroying a certain amount of enemies, and that will complete the entire dungeon and you can move on from there. Now there are a few other things that we can go ahead and talk about here, and one of the other things that's going to happen is going to be more of your overworld type deals. Now this is closely to Persona in my aspect here when I'm reading it, and this is called the impression system or impression checks. So based on the story that we're end up doing a lot of things here, it's very interactive. You do want to listen to the story to a bit because there's going to be some aspects between other characters that will affect your impressions with them and your actions with them. Kind of how we have the action points in P5 or any of those games where you really have to build those relationships with characters. This is going to be something of the same. depending on what we say to the locals or depending what we say to some of the people we interact with, we will have different stats that we can go into. One of them being benefit, another being morality, wisdom, empathy, and chaos. All of these can very well change our choices and our dynamics inside of different quests. So you do want to be a little bit smart on what you decide to say to a certain person, because it can affect your story path specifically. So be sure to keep that in mind. Now, another thing that we wanted to go over is, of course, the Luno Shop here. Now, the Luno Shop is something I was a little bit new to. I actually did not know we had something like this till like yesterday night. And this is something that you're just going to be exchanging different rare materials and blueprints. We see this briefly inside of the live stream, and they do kind of like tell us about it here where they're trying to like get different things out of it, but it's nothing too crazy. Apparently they're just a shop that we're able to get materials, and we're able to exchange said materials for different either mats, or either we can exchange it for a different currency. So they're most likely going to keep this in the game no matter what. So do keep in mind there is an exchange shop that will be happening. The next thing that we're going over is the forge system. Now, the forge system is still somewhat like this, where we're getting the weapons and we can easily grind them up with the what's called, with of course the weapon shards that we're exchanging, but a little bit different. So there's always going to be a place where we need to take these said shards or take materials to make these weapons, accessories, and demon wedges. So this is the place that you're going to end up going. I think we unlock it after we do a little bit of the story here. We have to get a certain place unlocked, and we're able to actually get this little anvil. Well, this is where we're going to end up meeting one of the main people, which is the Luno Smith, and they're going to help us crafting these said things. After you said craft one of these weapons or demon wedges or even accessories, it will take a little bit of time. In order to, of course, bypass that time, you will need to use these items called toy hammers to speed up the process, or most likely you can use a certain currency to expedite the process as well. I'm still unsure on that, but I believe I do remember seeing them do that. These said things, of course, we're able to get different blueprints around the city and get different blueprints around the area that we have. But do keep in mind, they still will take materials, just like the materials that we get for our weapons, demon wedges and such. We're going to need to get those materials for our blueprints. It's the only way you're going to be able to craft certain things. So you will need to go out and search for these blueprints in order to actually make some of these weapons. So keep that in mind and keep it in check when you're doing everything on day one. Now, the next thing that I did want to go over is going to be over the GENIEMONS. Now, GENIEMONS, think of them as like little, I guess you could say if you're from Wuthering Waves, echoes, or think of them as like pets in general. You can find these guys out in the wild, and when you do find them, you can very well feed them. And if you get lucky and you get their success rate up good enough, you can befriend these guys. So once you end up befriending these GENIEMONS, you can then deploy them inside of battle, and they are totally different from our sanity bar. They don't take up any aspects from our characters. They don't harm us whatsoever. They have their whole different thing. So the GENIEMONS themselves, each of them are going to come with their own different buffs. So once you end up getting them tamed here, which they are all around the map that you're going to be able to get them, once you get them tamed, they have their own combat buffs, and they will only have their own meter. This meter is going to look something like this here with a certain support skill, and it just doesn't harm you. So you can use this no matter what you're doing. It has its own cooldown period, so it's never going to hurt when you're actually doing your own combat. Now, there are ways that you can very well train these guys up, and apparently you can actually get them to change their traits as well, which is pretty darn cool. I knew of the ascending feature, but I didn't know that between GENIEMONS themselves, you can actually exchange their traits. So that's actually pretty cool that they ended up adding something like that. And they'll always be able to help you with this. Now, of course, if you do have other GENIEMONS, you can only have one in battle at a time. You can't have the inactive ones helping you as well. No, it has to be actively on your what's called on your person in order to, of course, use them in battle. So you have your active GENIEMONS, which are the ones that are always going to be with you, and then you have your inactive ones, which are ones that you just have just like collected, and you really can't use them until you make them active. But you always can take the traits, which is always a good thing too. Now, the next thing that I wanted to go ahead and talk about is the fashion sense. Now, fashion is my beautiful thing that I love inside this game. They posted a lot of this on their channel as well on YouTube, and I love this type of stuff. I'm a sucker for stuff like this here, and we're gonna have a ton of fashion inside the game. It's gonna be from some of them can be directly bought out from what I know. I think this one also has a gacha, but it also can be directly bought out. They mentioned it on the stream. if you translated the actual page, it says can be directly purchased. So what we do know is the outfits themselves, you can either gacha for them, which do have their own currency, such as these little hourglass. I think they're called prism hourglasses here. And once you get them, of course, you can dye the outfits later on and have your fun. Now, the dyes can go for the outfits, they can go for the weapons. It's always going to be something cool, but there will always be different looking ones. Now, there also are these accessories, which I think is part of the reason why a lot of people also pull as well, because I don't think the accessories are what's called directly buyable, but these accessories can also change your look a little bit here. You got these little things across her face that are little white opaque type little I'm gonna call them visors, I guess you can call them. And then you have the same thing with this one, which is a black and red visor with this whole outfit as well. Now I can't tell if the weapon's different because she doesn't have the weapon here, but she has it here. So I can't tell if that's a whole different weapon or anything, but it still is pretty darn cool to see the cosmetics here, which can both be purchased and gachas. So for the people who can't purchase them, there always is a gacha. There's going to be gacha currency that you very well can collect to get these outfits. It's not the end of the day, or at least it's not the end of the world. There are ways to get these fits. Now, speaking of this here, we also have some combat information. Now, combat information is going to go off of a elemental system, and it's mostly going to be a team-based combat. Based on the closed beta 2, I'm not sure if it's still like this here, but based on the closed beta 2, you were able to have 3 people inside of your party here, and each of those 3 characters are going to be coinciding with each other. I'm still expecting this to be somewhat the same way. I'm unsure if that's from when the game was still a gacha, but we're going to go off of it as if it wasn't still a gacha here at this point. The combat itself is going to consist of your 3 characters, which will help out each other, and they also go off of this elemental wheel. Pyro, of course, being better than Anemo, Anemo being better than Electro, Electro being better than Water, and vice versa here, or at least Hydro, sorry. Hydro being better than Pyro. So it's going to be vice versa with it. So if we go backwards, obviously you guys know, of course, they're not effective to each other that way. And then of course we have the weird ones over here being Umbro at the bottom and then Luno at the top. Well, or both of these two actually go against each other. They don't affect the other attributes from my knowledge here. They only have increased damage to one another. So whenever you are using an Umbro character, you understand that they're going to be effective to a Luno character. Whenever you're using a Luno character, they're going to be effective to an Umbro character. So that's always going to be interesting to actually keep in mind as well. And combat, we've already seen it a decent bit here now, guys. Like, it's pretty quick. The only thing that's a little slow is of course the helix jumping, which to be honest, I don't have really a huge problem with it. It's always going to be something cool. There's going to be multiple things that we can really just sit here and just box with. So pretty awesome as well. But now that we've been through this here, let's talk a little bit more on some of the other systems that we will see inside this game, which I guess I didn't pull them up by mistake. And that was meant to be pulled up as well for this. And the last thing I have to say is the exploration. Now, exploration here is one of the other things that are inside the game. You're going to be going through a ton of the story, and by doing so, you're able to get certain chests. You're able to get all these little blueprints that are around and GENIEMONs. So by going ahead and doing this, it's going to help you out quite a lot here. That's going to let you just get further and further in the game and progress your account as a whole. Be sure to try and knock that out. It's the normal thing that we see in all of these type of gachas or even in these type of games nowadays. So be sure to knock that out as well. Pretty sure I have went over everything that I wanted to go over today here. All right, so future me had to come back and correct past me. Now, there was one thing I forgot to have up, and that was the actual demon wedges system. I said it multiple times throughout the video, and this is pretty much the same as mods inside of Warframe. All it is you are able to equip these things onto your weapons, in which can help you with different attributes and trait buffs themselves, but also have a probability of changing the original attack patterns. Depending on the demon wedge that you do put on can do so, so it is important to figure out what demon wedges you want to use and what demon wedges are really good for the characters that you are using. Now, these can be gathered from exchange shop. They can be either crafted from at least the Luno Smith and gotten from different challenges. So there's multiple ways of actually getting these things here, and every weapon will have a certain amount of slots that a demon wedge can go onto. The slots are called demon wedge tolerances, which are actually very helpful for knowing what a character can be put on, what weaponry can actually have this amount of stuff on, and so you do have to optimize accordingly. By going ahead and doing this here, it can make your character and your weapon even more positive or even more powerful no matter what you're doing, though it will consume a lot more tolerance. So you do have to kind of optimize this to the best of your ability. As I did say before, the trait slots themselves can very well make it so the Demon Wedge takes a lot less of the tolerance cost. It just depends on the actual trait slots that you're using, so try to make sure of that. And as always, the Demon Wedge casket here is also another way of optimizing every last character. The casket records themselves are going to be a place where you're going to sit there and notice all the ones that you do have, but you do need to keep in mind there's a ton of these guys. You're going to need to optimize them as good as possible. So gather as many as you need and just sit there and learn them as you go. It's a very important system. You don't want to just willy-nilly just throw on anything, because of course it does affect your gameplay. But now I've went back through this, I'm gonna let him continue his end of his outro. But peace, people. Stay here. If I missed anything, let me know down below in the comment section. But this is all you really need to know about Duet Night Abyss, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you on the live stream later on tonight. If you did enjoy the video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, everybody, stay safe, stay sharp, and have a good one. Peace.